so that I can weave together. I always want to reinforce and observe and watch how life is always one thing, moving, moving, and the connection. And there were so many things in there. I would grab and go, okay, that's going to be it. And then I get lost somewhere. Then I go, what was that? Oh, and there was something else that went on. So I have nothing. Basically, I can't remember a thing you said, or some. I just know the feeling. And the feeling that I had consistently through the song was, I'm not living fully. And I don't think living fully, being fully seen, can be something that we force. I don't think it's a decision we make and it's done. I just think it's evolution. And I think that we need to learn patience and we need to be gentle with ourselves as we unfold. I chose this series, Our Magnificent Humanity, because certainly it is something that I am most interested in. I'm interested to know that I am not separate from life, that I'm not separate from any one person, that any one person's plight or joy or achievement is mine. Because I can't learn to be responsible finally for myself unless I include all of life in my sense of responsibility. And I think this journey is what we have in common as spiritual seekers. Gandhi once said, look at my life. Look at how I speak, what I eat, how I walk, how I pray. Look at that and know that you will know the law of my being. So it's not something that we can profess to ourselves as something we want to become. The greatest expression and the greatest exploration always results in the awareness of not what's going to happen when, but who we are now. And yet I can stand here in front of you and say it is my struggle. My struggle is to be who I am at the core of my being. And I still am totally aware of things that operate within me that I think I need to, that keep me safe. Things that I still do not want to show everyone. Because I have an old belief that if people were to see it, what's going to happen, you all know this one, they're not going to like, knowing it's one thing. She did set it in mind, we're going to do this together. We're doing this together, you bet. We're all doing this together. So we sacrifice our authenticity because we want to be safe and be liked. Because being liked gets us farther, don't you think? Yeah, I think so. Mm-hmm. It gives us back a sense of connection and belonging, importance, value, perhaps appreciation, acknowledgement. People hear us. People recognize us. Neil Donald Walsh said that the thing that we want most is the thing we're most afraid of. And if you've any of his work, conversations with God, the thing we want most is to be loved. The thing we are most afraid of is to be loved. Right? Because to be loved, you need to be seen. You can't really be intimate unless you open up everything and show everything. Gasp. I want to be seen for who I am, really? Is that what you put forward? Do you live and eat and pray and think and speak as if you really want to be seen? You really want to be known for who you are. So here's the problem. It's a conundrum. We don't know who we are. First of all, we're always changing. Right? And we don't want to stay stuck. We don't want to be limited. And now we're learning in metaphysics that our limitation of experience and expression comes from that place of causal consciousness, which is a limitation of our thoughts that we have about ourselves. So we don't want to be stuck where we are, but yet we're afraid to take a step. Sometimes, not all the time. We're getting much better into the mystery of what's possible. The problem is we don't know who we truly are. The problem is, when God spoke to Moses and said, the I am that I am. And Moses took that, and then Jesus showed up to live that in expression, to show us in this physical dimension how that was possible. To live fully open, fully in love, walking in love, being transparent, living in grace. We've had these stories. We've had people. We've seen many people do it. And yet there's something reticent with it. And I believe what's reticent is that pivotal key that we don't understand this first principle that Jesus was teaching. I am. Now, even when you say I am, it's dualistic. Here you have the I, and then you have the am. I am. All that God is, I am. So when you put the am with the I, it takes it into that place of, how do I live as God lives? How do I speak the word of God? Or intelligence. You don't need to use the word God. How do I reach into the highest wisdom place within myself? That divine mind that's already existent, of which I'm a part, because I am of it, I am as it, I am in it, I live through it. Because that law, we can prove this, because there is a divine order in life. It's not a chaotic universe. There's an order that follows the law of cause and effect. And so we can prove that everything that we believe we are is what we will eventually experience somehow in life. You've heard the story of the samurai, I think. If not, here it is. The samurai one day meets a sage, and he says to the sage, "What is heaven and what is hell?" And the sage looks at the samurai, big warrior, and he says, "How can an imbecile like you ever figure out or ever understand truly what I would say in response to that question? What is heaven and what is hell?" And the samurai could feel rage. And he drew his sword. And he went to kill the sage, at which point the sage said, "That, my friend, is hell." The samurai immediately dropped his sword. He fell to his knees in humility before the sage. And the sage said, "That, my friend, is hell." Simple. Simple to understand, not so simple to put in practice. It is hell when we fight and we rebel and we want to strike out and lash out. When we feel that pain, when we feel the pain of our own judgment and our own self-criticism, we think it's outside of us. We think we want to strike and kill something out there. But really that out there is the projection of the places in us that are not healed. When we create hell, you turn that down a little bit. I'm echoing in my own ear, which is kind of like having my BlackBerry. Thank you. Thanks, Brenda. When we feel heaven, when we project heaven outside of us, it is those places within us that we may not objectively perceive is who we are, but we intuitively and instinctively know our soul recognizes that truth. Either way, whether we want to be humble and we feel ready to surrender, or we feel safe enough to step out of the way and to be the witness of our life, or whether we're enraged and want to kill someone or something. Either way, it is the path to the truth. I personally, when I'm in that place, when I'm in that place of grace, I don't have any questions. I don't have any resistance. I don't have any need to know. I am kind of wanting to just experience where I am. I don't think of the future. I don't think of what the next step is. I just enjoy and I'm more present where I am. But when I raise my sword and I'm in judgment, boy, doesn't that take us down another path? It's a long, circuitous path back We, as human beings, don't like that. We want to have it now. But we also don't want to step back and surrender. You see the problem here? I just have a drink of water while that just kind of sinks in there. So we're right back to the same place. Who are we really? Who are we? Who are we really that can make us drop our sword or have us fall to our knees and lay ourselves down? For life, for a cause, for another, for ourselves. Because we know there is no loss. There is only gain. And what are we gaining? We're gaining a closer connection with the sacred spirit, the life, the I am that lives. I want to share with you a passage from the Science of Mind. And it's Holmes' take on the light of the world, which is John 8:12. Gee, I'm incarnating Doug. Sorry. That's my colleague from those who don't know. I am the light of the world. Jesus was not referring to his human personality, but to the principle inherent in generic man. They who follow this inner principle shall have the light of life, for this principle is life. Jesus said that he came not to destroy the law of Moses, but to fulfill it. How could he fulfill it except by teaching the relationship of the universal I am to the individual I? How could he fulfill it except by teaching the relationship of the universal I am to the individual I? So the universal I am is God as, or intelligence as, first cause, and intelligence as its creation. So the universal I am is both creator and creation. It is a natural creative process. The expression of all that is, moving out, which is one unity, wholeness and perfection, moving out itself into full expression into many diverse expressions, of which we have 40 proof right here.
40 proof.
Thank you. How can that be? How will it work if we don't carry it forward in our own consciousness? How will there be peace on earth if we don't know this truth? And not share this truth only, but live this truth. Surrender to this truth. Be uncomfortable in this truth. Make the changes that we need with commitment to this truth. To this truth, not for some God or for some other person, but so that we can live fully alive. I really believe that that's what we want. Holmes says that that's what we're here for. Not to leave some particular legacy or divine some great philanthropic organization, although all those things are wonderful and can be outpicturings of the inner intention to know self at the level of truth. They can also be outpicturings to create a standing or value outside of yourself in the physical world. Neither of which are wrong or bad. It's just a different feeling of how we create. We don't feel divided when we create organically. Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God or that inner intelligence within you. Now, in John, it goes on to say that Jesus' disciples were depressed, having an instinctive sense that Jesus was about to depart from them. It's kind of like us. We do hold on. I do remember that lyric now. There's a part of not letting go. We hold on to the self of who we know. Because we're afraid if we let it go, what? There will be no recognition. We won't even know who we are. Again, a conundrum. They were filled with sadness. Yes, It is grief. We do lose. As our thoughts die, as our image or who we believe or what we believe we work in our life we let go of, there is a sadness for a part of us goes with it. A part of our personality. But certainly it does not impact, or certainly do we not lose on the level of our soul's evolution. We only gain. It was on the eve of his betrayal that he spoke these words, "Let your heart not be troubled." With the calm certainty which has ever been given to the believing, he was not afraid. He had already plumbed the depths of human existence and penetrated into the beyond. Letting ourselves be seen asks us to have the courage to plumb. To plumb. And you know, I know most of you here, and I know that that's what you have the courage to do. Or you wouldn't be on the spiritual journey. Jesus was not afraid. He knew that he was an immortal being. So this takes us right to the question of not only what can we lose if we know this truth of the I am, if we let ourselves be seen, if we live transparently, if we keep reaching to be authentic and not pay any mind to if we are liked, if we are acknowledged, if we are heard, if only but we like, acknowledge, and hear ourselves and be our best friend, which is what he said. Our hearts are troubled over many things, and our mental burdens often become unbearable. It seems at times as though a cup of bitterness were being held to unwilling lips, with the demand that they drink. The cup of bitterness that we try to avoid, that ultimately we will hold to our lips, is the spirit within us pushing up against all that is untrue. It is bittersweet because we let go a part of who we are. We let go a part of whether it got us what we internally, innately desired to have or to experience. Nevertheless, it has supported us, walked along with us, our thoughts, to this point in time. I have often second-guessed something that I have heard that has come to me in spiritual practice. Have you not? Have you often? Have you fought it? Going, well, I don't know. I'm not sure. You know, it could just be my own voice speaking to me. You know, how do I know that it's God? Right? These questions. How do I know? How do I know? We spend so much time trying to know, trying to understand, trying to be educated, trying to be fully informed, when we don't know. We don't know. Can we just let it down? Can we put the sword of our Nintendo down? Can we surrender it and believe that that inner intelligence of all of life that lives within us is ready to be revealed if we open to it? The answer is within. We have everything we need. Be down. Put it down. The sword of needing to know something more than the truth of who we are. We'll never know it. We will never know the truth of who we are unless we be it. That's it in a nutshell. The kingdom of heaven is within. Really. How do I know that? How can I be sure? Right? Take a big breath. Open your mouth, or take a thought, or take a step, and test it. That's what we're here for. That's the human journey. Jesus told them to believe in God, the I am, as we would say in metaphysics, and because of their belief in the I am, to believe also in him, meaning that he is a way shower. Believe in yourself as a way shower. Believe in all people as way showers. Because every one of us, no matter our experiences in life, no matter our age, our gender, our preference, our vision, our goal, our behavior, are all way showers. Every one of us equal. Every one of us. I mean, maybe it sounds simple. Maybe I'm getting all excited and not bothered about nothing, but I think it's pretty exciting Again, he is referring to the individual I am as the outward manifestation of the universal I am. We are to believe in ourselves because we believe in God. We are to believe in our capacity to move forward in our own individual choices in life and our ability and our freedom to make choices that are sound and solid and good. Because there is that God within us, that intelligence, that is of one nature, that is intelligent and all-wise and all-knowing and all-loving and prosperous. If we but lay the sword down and bow in front of that lives within us and let that lead us, oh my God. Oh my dear God. Oh my dear me. Chatterjee, who wrote a book called Leading Consciously, that was kind of a rage about 10 years ago, I think in the corporate world, kind of, moving this idea into the business world to leading differently, talks in one of his chapters about this idea of transforming our own consciousness so that we can be in a different place in action as we lead. And I grabbed a few things from his book that I wanted to share with you. Because if we're all way showers on the level of our own soul, some might say, well, that's good, that's a little altruistic. How do I bring that into the real world? And we're all in the business of living. So I thought I'd share this part with you. He talks about turning the mundane work that we do in our lives, in our jobs or in our homes or every day, into something called workship. Workship. And when we can turn the mundane into workship, then action is linked to transcendental consciousness. It has an entirely different vibration. So this consciousness has the ability over time to move us from the small self or the personality, the ego self, to that I am. The book of the Upanishads explore this transformational journey in terms of 4 stages of development from self. And for those of you who use references of ego and spirit or human and divine, I'm going to use the reference of small self to large self, small s self to big S self, so as not to continue this idea of dualism. It's just the one self, the I am, exploring and becoming the fullness of itself. So the first is physical needs of work. So it's like the survival, all the survival stuff. Where is the environment? What's the temperature? How big is the company? Where am I positioned in the company? How many breaks do I get? When do I get paid? All that stuff. It's the physical self is the first stage of growing the smaller self to that bigger transformational I am. The second is called the vital self. And this is where you include the ideas of your physical needs, but it expands beyond to include the concern for the people that you work with, and the awareness and the observation of the community that you work with, and the desire to work not just for your own self-serving needs, but for the needs. You're kind of on the edge of doing it for the greater good of all, just on the edge of it, being aware of it. The third is called the mental self, and this is where we start to make our choices of work that satisfy our intellectual and our aesthetic values. And we seek work environments that are ethical and that are somewhat altruistic, that are idealistic. That's why I love working here. And if I could just get the board to really see that there's both a spiritual budget and a practical budget, I'd be in heaven. I guess I have to get out of the way for that one then, don't I? The fourth stage is the sheath of intelligence, encompassing the psychic and spiritual domain of human consciousness. Perceiving work as boundaryless activity. So you don't know where, and this If you happen to be a OCD or a workaholic, this can be very confusing. Because you're so passionate and excited about what you do. It is ongoing. Everything you do is about this one thing. Where do you draw the line? It's kind of like there never is a problem. It's only that you think there's a problem is a problem. One of those confusing things. There are no lines, but if you think you need to draw a line, you will either think you stepped over it or you haven't quite come up to it. Right? So in the sheath of intelligence, you're working not for the sake of who you are in your job, but for the world at large. Knowing that your work is an extension of the intelligence that lives within you. Now, true enough, to be completely seen is felt unsafe. It is felt unsafe. But we're all walking toward it. So the fourth stage, and how you apply this in your own life, is like this. It's a continual movement of the whole self upon the particular. And that's what we teach in Science of Life. We teach that the consciousness of God, or this infinite mind, is always present everywhere, at all times equally. Which means in the person that you wish to raise your sword against. Which means in all the plans you've so meticulously and carefully orchestrated. With the belief that it's the highest intention for the greatest good, and when they go sideways, it means in all things. So we bring that evolution of the small self, that ego personality self, into the knowing of the I am everywhere. That's what I do. Now, as I said that, with great knowing and conviction, pretty simply, not a lot of energy. My little brain went, really? Did you do that this morning? What happened last night when you got the phone call that the wonderful place you're staying in Vancouver at the conference, at the very last minute, at the 12th hour a week before, you can only have for half the week? Of course, I organized 2 other people to come and stay with me, and blah, 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 blah. So I thought I had it all done, you know, it's nice, okay, I can put that over here. And it's like, oh. So did I know? Did I say I am in that moment? No. I immediately went to the computer and made new arrangements. Because I was not going to have that festering. I was not going to I was going to control that issue, right? I did it. And then I said, I am. Almost there. Now, I could have told you that story differently if my witness had not been sitting here today. But no, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have done that. Totally out of it. I would have told you, because that's transparent. That's the way it is. There is no separation between you and me. And I can tell by that laugh that you really understand. So the state of transcendence that we talk about in the science of becoming is the creative principle of nature that works in a quiet and obtrusive manner. It's always working. It's working through our veins, through our heartbeats, through a perfectly synchronized movement of the planet. We are so attached. We are so one. We are so unified. How many times a day do I say I am? You know, in this movement we say, oh, don't say I feel tired, or don't say I am tired. Don't say I am tired. Say I am vitally healthy, with full of life and capacity. And in this moment right now, I'm feeling a little tired. So that's more accurate. You know, I mean, Joyce. 45 years in this teaching. You remember that one, right? It's 101. I am. It's a very powerful statement. Be careful of what you attach to it. Attach the truth to it. Attach the truth. So, how can we be fully seen if we're not fully seeing? How can we be fully seen and show up? How can we be transparent? How can we walk into the places of not feeling safe? A quivering heart. My heart is quivering. Let it quiver. It's not going to break. It's not going to explode. There's nothing to protect. And if we keep trying to hide ourselves, to create this behavioral pattern and this pattern of thinking because we think there is something that we need to be afraid of outside of us, when really outside of us is only the projection of our own judgment upon ourselves, we will never be seen. Try it today. Just today. Had a good shot of B12. You're ready to roll. Try it today when you leave here. Be totally honest, totally transparent. You know, because you'll never be the fullness of who you are anyway, because you're always expanding infinitely. You're always becoming. But as you are now, stand in that truth. Don't worry about being like. Just feel the glory and the grace of being true to yourself and showing up that way. And the places in you that you don't trust will rise into the day. The capacity is there. Hearts really don't break. I'll tell you, if we keep suppressing who we are, and we keep not showing up, and we keep being afraid to be seen, and we keep trying to be immune to hurt and pain, we will never know love.